Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to the Business Plugs Mixer. The Business Plugs Mixer is aired here every Sunday at 7-ish p.m. Eastern Time. And today is going to be a special day. Today, I have been learning about something I knew nothing about, right? And that's what I try to bring is try to bring topics on that will educate you and me and would help us to learn more about what's going on in the world around us, right? And so today, my guest is from London, England. However, she is dealing with the joys of working in different time zones. And I can so relate when you are a global influencer, a global impactor. You tend time zones, guys. It is not easy trying to juggle these different time zones, especially when they are more or less 2 or 3 hours before you, a few hours behind you, trying to get all that together. It's all about being an influence at a global level. When you are impactful at a global level, it happens. And so she's just joined us. So I'm going to welcome our guest in just a second. But before I invite her in, I want to tell you all that if you are looking to be certified in 2024, then let's have a conversation after the holidays. I am inviting business owners who are small businesses, who are minorities, who are women, who are disabled, who are veterans, all of those different things. There is like so much money coming down the pike to support small businesses. And I want to make sure that the business owners that are in my network have access to those dollars. So please reach out. The way to contact me is in the link. All you have to do is just click the link and join me. And so, hey, Tamika, thank you for joining us. And so, in addition to that, I want to talk to you about 2024 annual planning. So, first Friday in January, we're talking about the annual planning. I'm actually doing an online virtual meetup. You can find those tickets at eventbrite.com. And then the very next week after that, I am actually doing a meetup that is a cost and it is reduced. It is reduced. I'm teaching you about certifications. I'm teaching you how to get your annual plans together. I want you to have an intentional 2024. And so that's what we're supporting. And at this time, without any further ado, I'd like to introduce to you my guest, my sister from across the waters, Giselle. Hey, Giselle, come on in the house, honey.
Hello.
Hello. Hello. I said I laughed because I talked to one of the sisters in the group, and she's in Argentina.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and she was like, yeah, I'm 2 hours ahead of you. See, I'm used to being in the front, right?
Yeah.
'Cause when you're in the Eastern, you're an hour, we have Central Time, we're an hour before them, and then Mountain Time, we're 2 hours before them, and then the West Coast, we're 3 hours before them.
Oh,
So
wow.
I'm used to being in front. But when she said, no, 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 I'm 2 hours ahead of you, Linda. I'm like, oh, that's different. That's different. Her in Australia. Australia is like 15 hours different in Africa. So when you go east, it gets to get crazy. But yeah.
Yeah.
So how are you, love?
I'm really good, Linda. I'm so excited to be here. Really, really excited. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, thank you for coming because I'm assuming that the people that follow me have no idea what medical tourism is. Like that was a whole new phrase for me. And so I've been looking at it and reading up on it, trying to, okay, when did it start? And what is this medical tourism? And it turns out it's centuries old.
Yes.
Like people traveling to different countries for medical treatment has been going on for centuries. And
Yeah.
I live under a cloud, or in a hole under a rock, or what I had no idea. Because they were talking about the article that I was reading was saying that in the US, that to get a liver surgery in US was like 300,000, but then in Taiwan it's like 91,000. Like they were talking about different places. And so you, my lady, are going to tell us about the UK, and they mentioned the European um medical, I think it was EMA. Here in the United States, we have the FDA.
Yes.
who is our food and drugs administrator over everything that's medical and everything that's food, right? But they mentioned the FDA, but they also mentioned the European Medical Association as well. So tell us, ma'am, about who you are and what you do.
I will. Thank you so much, Linda. And, well done for doing that background work, because that's, that it just, we start the momentum and garner the interest in
Yeah,
medical travel and tourism. So huge well done to you.
thank
Um,
you.
so my name is Giselle Mettam, and I am the co-founder and executive director of operations at Metta Health. And we essentially are a medical travel company. We're based in the UK, and we support international clients to come over to the UK and benefit from rapid, affordable, high quality healthcare. So we are connected to a network of over 1,000 specialists, all sorts of different health conditions. And essentially, we support people by making arrangements for airport transfers, accommodation. We find the right clinical expert for each client, making sure that they're really well matched to give the best outcome for that client. And we make all those arrangements, including aftercare. And even when they go back to their country, we are their main point of contact. So if there are any issues at all, we're right on hand to address those issues. There seldom are, I have to admit. And one of the reasons for that, Linda, is that our USP, or something that we really focus on and that we're really passionate about, is working with consultants who are committed and passionate about minimally invasive procedures. So what does that mean? That means less cutting.
Absolutely.
Less cutting, less trauma, less pain, less risk of complications, faster recovery. So our clients can just relax, enjoy London, and perhaps go to Europe if that's what they want to
I
do.
love it. I love it. And so you don't hear it because in the US, you would hear about people going to Mexico,
Yeah,
right? And especially they call it the BBL or whatever it's called, but
yeah,
whatever it's called. And we've had stories where people went and they were robbed and they were killed. And I mean, it's been traumatic, right? And
yeah,
so when I think about going to the UK, like you are comparable on so many
absolutely.
of the different checkoffs with the US.
Absolutely, absolutely. So the UK, the private healthcare in the UK is either on par or in some cases slightly better than the US, depending on the healthcare condition.
Mm,
And one of the real positives about the UK is that we're extremely well regulated.
mm,
And so all of the consultants are what's called GMC registered, so they have a professional registration. They have to revalidate on a regular basis, and they've got really strict clinical governance guidelines. What does that mean? That means that they're accountable, they're held to account for their practice.
mm.
So, in terms of standard of care, very high standard of care, very high quality of care in the UK, both in the public and the private sector. So, we're really fortunate in that respect, and we want people to be able to benefit. I tell you what else, Linda. The cost, you mentioned the cost of liver disease treatment in the US. The UK is between 40 and sometimes up to 70% cheaper
Wow.
than the US. So you could, if you had a healthcare condition, you could fly to the UK first class, stay in a really lovely hotel, have your treatment, and sometimes pay 50% less than you would in the US.
Wow. Wow. That's amazing. And I mean, and so this is for medically necessary treatment or cosmetic treatment.
Any treatment. So yes, it does include cosmetic treatment. We've got some excellent cosmetic surgeons here in
Mm,
the UK who, that are world renowned.
wow. Wow. That's amazing. I had no idea when you came on the call and you said, "Oh, that is medical tourism." I'm like, "Do what?" Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. I was like, do never heard those terms together and thought, oh, it makes sense, right? It makes sense, especially if you're doing minimal invasive.
Yes.
Like that because I understand what that meant. So I spent 26 years in the insurance industry. So I know a lot of the medical terms and
Ah,
things. So yeah, so I understand what that
yeah.
means. And so that's to help a person get back on their feet. In fact, I've had some minimal invasive services where I was on my feet. Like it used to be 6 weeks and I only needed two. The first week was the worst, but then I started coming around and was
Yeah.
able to get back to myself in almost no time.
Yes, absolutely. And 2 weeks, in terms of a medical procedures here, um, let me give you an example. Hip surgery.
Mm,
So we work with a clinic that uses quite a novel, revolutionary approach to hip surgery. And
mm,
being a nurse myself by background,
mm-hmm,
and seeing hip surgery done, it's one of the most brutal surgeries that I have
mm.
seen. You go to the theatre, it looks like a carpentry shop. Um,
Yeah, I've seen that that
yeah,
mallet. I've
the
seen the mallet. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
absolutely.
absolutely.
Absolutely. And so, what usually happens during hip surgery, kind of standard hip surgery, is that they have to cut the muscle depending on whether they're going from the front or the back, or, so they have to kind of cut the muscle and they have to move the nerves around. With this approach, the clinic that we work with, they don't do any cutting of the muscle. So
Wow.
it's ultra minimally invasive. I mean, most of the surgeons in the UK do minimally invasive, but this is ultra minimally
Mm,
invasive. So the surgery lasts under 20 minutes.
mm,
They don't cut the muscle, they don't interfere with the nerves. And so the patients don't feel that pain, that
mm.
excruciating pain that lasts for a long time and means that they have a longer recovery. With this approach, they are, as I said, it's 20 minutes. They feel less pain, less trauma, a faster recovery. So they're up and walking on the same day
Wow.
and they're discharged the next day. So when
Wow.
we say minimally invasive, we mean minimally invasive.
Wow. And I know because as we age, hip surgery becomes more and more important that you learn that you learn
Yeah.
some things about it, right? And so I remember my brother needed it before he passed. He needed that was going to be his next thing to get have done. And you're talking about a lot of downtime, right? Because he was paralyzed on one side and he was going to have a whole lot of downtime because of that. But just looking at, you know, I don't think people even know that the UK is an alternative.
It's an excellent alternative. I was talking to someone the other day and we were talking about language, the use of language in medical care. And I just want you to think about this, Linda, and for your listeners. Sometimes you go to the doctor, it'd be in the US, and you come away and you think, what did he say again? I didn't quite catch that. And that's in your own English language.
Mm,
Can you imagine going somewhere else where they don't speak your language? It's a
I know.
different language. Being able to grasp all those nuances that mean so much to us as human beings, we don't grasp that. And when medical care, where medical care is concerned, every single word counts. It,
Absolutely.
it's an integral part of patient safety.
Mm. And so walk me through a person calls you and
Yes.
they're thinking of having some cosmetic procedure, let's say that.
Okay.
And walk me through the process for them.
Okay. So they call us, and we will have a chat with them about what they're thinking, what they're looking for. It's just an informal chat, just to glean some information about them, because our focus is the client. What does
Mm-hmm.
the client want, and actually, what outcome are they looking for?
Mm.
And then once we build that rapport with that client, and it doesn't take long because you kind of learn you can learn a lot about someone
Mm-hmm.
in 10 minutes or so. If they want to proceed, up until that point we're just having a friendly chat. what we tend to do to help us to structure the information is we complete an initial healthcare needs assessment.
Mm.
You know, what are your symptoms? What's brought you here? What are you looking for? And what's really important to us is the outcome that they're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
And we ask them about their lifestyle. We ask them about, you know, whether they've had any previous surgery, that sort of thing, because based on that information, if they then want to proceed, you know, what we do essentially is we match them with the right consultant to give them the best outcome. So based on the information that they've given us, you know, something like age is really important.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm. We undertake research, quite extensive research, because we've got a big network of
Mm-hmm.
clinicians, clinical experts, and we want to find the right one for them. So we'll undertake um, this very in-depth research, and once we find the right consultant, who we think the right consultant, we might have two. There might be a choice.
Mm.
Discuss that with them, and we will say to them, please do your research on the consultant and make sure that you're happy with this person.
Mm-hmm.
Or there may be an alternative. Why don't you choose? They're both equally, you know, they both have excellent outcomes. They both have a fantastic bedside manner. We've looked at the kind of clinical picture and what they can provide. You choose, because it's
Yeah.
really important that the client is part of that process. And
Absolutely.
yes, and once they're happy with that, we then make arrangements. Obviously, at that point, we want to take a deposit to make sure that people are committed.
Right.
It's a lot of work to do that, and that's fine. But we want to make sure that there's a mutual commitment to this fantastic process they're about to undergo. And once that's done, we can then start making arrangements for them to come over. So at this point, what we do, as I said, is we take a deposit, we make all the arrangements for their accommodation, their medical appointments. Now, at this point, in some instances, what we encourage is a virtual consultation.
Mm.
We want them to meet their consultant, build a rapport, you know, just have a really good feel for if they're happy with the person, and then based on their diagnostic test results, which we would have asked them for previously, and on the conversation they have with the consultant, they then kind of come to an agreement about what treatment, or, you know, what the next steps will be in terms of their operation.
Mm-hmm.
So we're all now on the same page. The clinician has met them and has given them a recommendation. They've built a rapport with the clinician, so they know exactly who they're coming to see.
Mm-hmm.
And so we could make all the arrangements, and then once they come over to the UK, they get picked up at the airport, taken to their accommodation. All of their medical appointments would be made, so we give them an itinerary as to where they need to be and when, and we make sure that they get there. And then obviously the date for their surgery will be booked. So we make sure that they attend all the appointments to prepare for that. So like the pre-admission, etc.
Mm-hmm.
And then once the day comes, we get them to the hospital on time. Once they're finished to their procedure, we get them picked up and taken back to their accommodation.
Mm.
If they need any, usually with cosmetic surgery, it's minimal aftercare.
Mm-hmm.
But if they do need any aftercare, that's also arranged for them. And then during that period of recovery, if they need someone to check in with them, i.e., like a care assistant, we arrange that. They get calls from us on a regular basis because they have a personal coordinator who will make sure everything's okay. We look after their relative or the person that's come with them, make
Mm-hmm.
sure they're comfortable as well. And then, you know, whatever they need, we're there to provide. We're holding their hand throughout the whole process.
Wow. Like so, and I'm glad you mentioned that. So they come with a friend or a companion to help them through the majority of it, as far as accompanying them, and then you all any the medical things you all take care of that for them. So basically, that person is just there as their companion, so that they have somebody to relate with and get whatever else outside of the medical things that are needed.
That's correct. So we always say to people, look, if there's anyone that you can bring with you, it's nice to have someone there with
Yeah.
you at the time you're having surgery, and it's just lovely to have someone there. Now, if they can't do that and they want, they want someone there, we can provide 24-hour nursing care for them.
Mm-hmm.
Or if they're just happy to have someone come in and check on them on a regular basis, we provide that as well. Because the pathway is bespoke, it's all dependent on what their needs are.
Right, right. Yeah, that makes sense. And so, does any of this ever get covered by insurance?
Yeah, good question, Linda. And that's a question that we often get asked. Now, there are several hospitals and private hospitals and clinics in the UK that will take international insurance.
Mm-hmm.
If they do, then it's really easy. When they come over and they've had their operation, there's a link with the insurance, and that's settled with the
Mm-hmm.
insurance. Some of them don't. And what we advise our clients to do is just pay by credit card. And usually, what will then happen is that we complete some forms with them, and then the insurance reimburses them.
Oh, okay, okay, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. Like I said, I have a claims history, insurance. I have an insurance claim history,
Excellent.
26 years of it. So yeah, so I understand that totally. The good thing is about the claims from UK, we don't have to translate.
Right.
We only have to translate the money, but we don't have to translate the words. So that's the good thing about it. But
It's an important advantage, Linda. It's an
it,
important.
it is though, because I never thought about it. Well, I've never really thought about it. And then when you said that on that call, I was like, wait a minute, that is interesting. Though I have found it to be very interesting
Yeah.
because not that I'm in the market, but I hear people talk about going here, there, and yonder to have surgeries. And here in our city, we've had some people who went and it didn't fare well, right? And so I'm thinking but the UK, they're like on our level. So wait a
Yeah.
minute, how many
Yeah.
people know that that's even an option?
Yeah.
And
And
so that
it's an
yeah,
excellent option.
it is, and that's why I wanted you to come on and talk about it, because I love bringing things that I don't hear people talk about a lot, and I just take it for granted that they may not know, because I didn't know. Because I didn't know. But yeah, and so the follow-up care, and so you've had the surgery, you've made it back home. The follow-up care is teleconferenced.
Yes. So what would usually happen, and this is something as a nurse that I insist on, before the client leaves the UK, they have to have a check with their surgeon. And that's all built into the package, because we want to make sure that the wound is nice and clean, that it's healing well, that if there are any risks that, anything that could pose a risk, that's checked. So, for instance, with a hip replacement, um, the package includes 4 weeks accommodation.
Mm-hmm.
And that's because within that 4 week period, if there are any issues at all, they can go and see their consultant. And at the end of that 4 week period, they get an X-ray, and they get a consultation with the consultant, who will check that everything's in the right position, and that the wound is nice and dry and healing. And within 4 weeks, you would know when
Absolutely.
issue. So we insist that they have to stay long enough so that we can have that check, and then they can go home. And if there are any issues at all, we get the consultant on a video conference, and they can talk to the client. They will also talk to the client's doctor if that's necessary.
Right, right. Yeah. And so then going back to the initial, so if I'm planning to have a surgery in the UK, do I send my medical records to you, or do I wait until I get a consultant and send those medical records to them?
So, a really sorry, I should have made that clear, Linda. As part of that initial process, that that front, the first bit where we do that initial healthcare needs assessment, we do ask for the medical records, not all of them, just
Right.
relevant things. So,
Exactly.
any test results, images, scans, that sort of thing, and the last doctor's letter, because there'll always be a recommendation by a doctor or
Mhm.
something, or a letter or something that indicates, kind of what a diagnosis is, or what the issue is, or what the recommendation is. So we always ask for that. And as part of our liaison with the consultant, we present that information to them so that they can see, so that they can confirm whether they're happy to accept the case.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That is just amazing to me. this this whole process is just really, really amazing to me.
Thank you.
And so when you talk about on average, how many people do you think come to the UK for those type services on average?
So, okay, so I'll say this: that number moves, constantly. What I will say is that when you look at the top 10 countries in the world
Mm-hmm.
that are the most popular for medical tourism, the
Mm-hmm.
UK is number 5.
Okay. Okay.
Um, and we get people from literally from all over the world
I would
that
imagine.
the UK. And why do they do it? Why is it that the UK is so popular? Because it's not it. When you look at Thailand and you look at Mexico, the UK is more expensive. It's more
Mm.
expensive than India, Mexico, Turkey, Thailand. And so I think they're kind of the first 4 uh,
Okay.
countries. The difference is value for money. If you go to Mexico or you go to India or you go to Turkey and something goes wrong, when everything goes right, it's fine. When something goes wrong, you're back and forth to that place, trying to get a resolution,
Mm.
trying to understand in detail in a different language what's actually going on, because that information's been translated all the time.
Absolutely.
So what usually happens is perhaps up front when you compare the two, the UK looks a bit more expensive. But when you factor in all those trips and the stress of doing that, you're paying a heck of a lot more money.
Absolutely. And even the translation, right? Like from the initial care and the quality of care,
Yeah,
because some of those countries are not known for the quality of care
yeah.
that is equal to the United States. And so cheaper does not mean better.
No, no,
Especially when you're talking medical. Like
right,
cheaper does not necessarily translate to better. And
no,
so understanding that portion of it, and then yeah, yeah, I because you named those countries, and I was thinking, I don't know if I want to go to some of
right,
those countries to have them inside of me.
right,
I
right.
don't know. I don't. I don't know if I trust them with a scalpel,
Exactly.
doing it cutting on me. I don't know because some of those countries that you mentioned, I'm like, yeah, okay, no, no, thank you.
Yeah, right. A big factor in this is, and it's something that keeps doctors and nurses awake at night. And it's something that I'm passionate about: patient safety. Now, when
Absolutely
you have any operation, there's no perfect system in the world.
right.
Nothing perfect. So there's no point me sitting here and saying, everything's going to be perfect, because when you enter into the medical arena and you have to have an operation, people have to be honest and say that they're risk. It doesn't matter which country you go to.
Yeah, yeah.
There's a risk when you're
There's
having.
always a risk anytime you go into anesthesia, and
Yeah,
that is not where you are.
yeah, exactly. The difference is, if something did happen, well, how do they manage that risk? That's the difference in
Yeah.
terms of patient safety. What's the plan to manage that risk?
Mm,
And what's the worst case scenario? And what's going to happen in that worst case scenario for me?
yeah,
Because
yeah.
what you want is to make sure that the people that you are paying
Mm-hmm.
cut into your skin,
Mm.
cut into your body, know how to manage the risk of that.
Exactly.
And one of the biggest risks is infection. And there's something about, how do they sterilize the instruments? Do they have enough water? Who's in what,
That,
what is,
that's what those are the flags that came up. Boop, boop, boop. Those are the red flags. When you were naming these countries, I'm like, wait a minute, wait. Some, you know, I'm
absolutely,
thinking sanitation is best in some of those countries, and they're going inside, and the chance of infection with all the
exactly,
MRSAs and all the other things that can happen. I'm thinking, ooh, no,
yeah,
that doesn't look appealing at all.
exactly. So when you're choosing where you go, if you're leaving the United States and you're making a choice about which country, you've got to check, is the surgeon qualified to do this surgery?
Yeah,
How many have they done? What's been the success rate? What are the outcomes? What's their complication rate? What are the risks, and what happens when, if those risks actually occur? Let's make sure we've got a plan to manage that risk if that occurs.
and
And then
are there even metrics available?
exactly,
Like,
exactly,
are there even is anybody even keeping record? Not just that my girlfriend went and I went. Is my girlfriend went and she's okay, so I'm going too because we are all different, and our body chemistries and our history and genetics and all these things are different, and all those go into play when you're having surgery.
exactly. And your personal risks are different. You know, someone with heart disease,
Mm,
already existing heart disease,
yeah.
operation, that increases their risk. How is that managed? Do they even ask? And what happens with patients who have respiratory disease, heart
Mm,
disease, if they have something like sickle cell, if they're diabetic? So the difference is a holistic approach to care. So we're looking at the whole person, not just that particular condition.
exactly.
And the doctors that are the consultants that we select for that person is all dependent on their ability and their capability and appetite for managing someone who's complex, if that's what's needed. So there's
Exactly.
not a one size fits all.
It's not. It truly isn't. And again, it goes back to, are the medical report? Is there a medical reporting that can ensure that the person you're getting can handle you if something goes awry? Like, you don't want them to be learning on how to handle it on you. Like, this
No,
is the first time I've had this case. Oh, you don't you don't want that. And
no,
so it is important for people to think thoroughly about going. And it could be a very good doctor, very good at what he does. But
yeah.
if I checked out, I had some cosmetic procedures done before, and my kids were like, "What are you doing, lady?" And it was right when Kanye West's mother, when she passed.
Uh-huh.
And that morning, my son called and said, "Have you listened to the news?" But I
Oh,
had done my due diligence. Like, I made sure he was board certified. I made sure that he had all the credentials. I looked at his rate, I looked at everything, and I didn't have the comorbidities that Kanye's mother had.
sure,
God
sure.
rest her soul. So I know how, but I learned in that whole situation what to look for and what
Yes,
questions to ask.
yeah,
And he came through with flying colors. And that's why I went ahead and had it done. But my boys, they were like, wait a minute.
yeah,
What are you doing, lady?
yeah. Absolutely. It's
Because you need to check all that out.
Yeah. Because if you're going to gamble on something, don't gamble on your health.
Absolutely. No.
That's it's not a good place to start.
Yeah. And you don't get it back like
No,
that. It's going
no.
to take, if it ever goes wrong, it goes wrong. And then you
Yeah,
don't want that. Well, I appreciate your coming by the Business Plugs Mixer and telling us about medical tourism and the UK because I had no idea. Again, I had no idea, but I knew I wanted you to come on and just talk about it and help educate my people, my circle of people who, may be interested or may know someone they can pass that on to. And so I've put your information where they can contact you in wherever this is being shown. And I ask people to go ahead and subscribe and like and follow Gazelle to make sure that you're connected with her. But what would you like who should be contacting you, Giselle?
Okay, so anyone who has got a particular healthcare condition and wants to live a full life.
Hmm.
If you want to get back to life, living your life with your loved ones without pain and without the challenges that we all face if we have a healthcare condition that's weighing on our mind, don't wait. Don't struggle on.
Hmm.
Don't think, oh, it will go away. If if you've got an issue and a doctor's given you a diagnosis, unless the doctor says you don't need to do anything, then you need to do something. And you want to live that life as full as you can, because we don't know, in the world that we're living in today, we don't know what's wrong around the corner.
Mm-hmm.
So the people that should contact us are the ones that want rapid, affordable, high quality healthcare
Mm.
and to be really looked after from beginning to end.
Yes. Yes, I agree. I agree. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. My name is Linda Murray Bullard. They call me the business plug. And today I have plugged you in to medical tourism. Reach out to Gazelle in all the links that you have here. And we'll see you next Sunday, 7 p.m. Eastern Time on the Business Plugs Mixer. Have a great week, everybody. We'll see you next week.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.